on the Extreme channel, we're not going to talk about psychology, but let's be honest. Fear is a real part of our lives. And this statue we're going to talk about today embodies fear. In fact, that's his superpower. Me, I only have 3 fears. Number 1, a woman with a tattoo of a dagger on her body. 2, playing cards against a guy who's got the same first name as a city. 3, mashed potatoes. Hey, thanks for tuning into the Extreme channel. My name is Mr. X. We have another Extreme collectible on the table today. This is by Sideshow Collectibles. This is their brand new, just released, premium format Scarecrow Statue. So let's break all that down. Sideshow Collectibles, one of the biggest manufacturing and distributing companies of statues in the world, produced, manufactured, marketed, distributed this piece. And it is Scarecrow from the DC Comics. Scarecrow is a Batman villain, part of the Rogues Gallery. And he used to be a doctor, believe it or not. He used to be a psychologist or psychiatrist, or I'm not quite sure what the difference is. I just call mine Doc. But Scarecrow uses fear toxins to induce fear into his enemies. Kind of like we talked about at the beginning, it's actually a pretty cool power because, as my shrink tells me, fear is a natural thing that we all have to deal with. So he takes that weakness that everybody has, except Rocky. I don't think Rocky ever had that fear. And not only does he exploit it, but he exploits it times 10. So this is a premium format. When I say that, that means that Sideshow Collectibles, the manufacturer, made this in a scale. This is a 1/4 scale, meaning that if Scarecrow was real, he is, they would have frozen him and shrunk him 4 times smaller than he originally was. So what we're going to do today, we're going to look at this piece, we're going to do an in-depth review, we're going to talk all about the background information. But before we do that, we are actually giving away a 1/4 scale statue. Check it out. We are going to hit 20,000 subscribers in 2020. To do that, we're giving away a statue every 2,500 subs. At 15,000 subs, the winner will get to choose between these 2 PCS Mortal Kombat statues. Make sure that you've liked this video, you've subscribed to the channel, and you've hit that bell notification. Then stay tuned towards the end of this video to find out how to enter. Also, if you're wondering, hey, what about the last giveaway, Mr. X? That should launch in 2 or 3 days. We're going to announce the winner, so make sure you've subscribed and hit that bell notification for that as well. Now, I jumped on this piece because I have a DC room, and believe it or not, either today or tomorrow, I'm actually filming a room tour, so you should also see that within the next week. And I was going to get rid of a lot of my 1/4 scale pieces, but recently I got a custom Riddler I was so excited about. Also part of the Rogues Gallery, this guy right here. Awesome piece. You can check out the review. So I kept my 1/4 line, and I have a few more coming, but this guy is one I didn't plan on getting, but I saw him live at New York Comic Con 2019, and I was blown away. I do have another Scarecrow piece. It's from the Arkham games, this 1/3 scale by Prime 1 Studios, which I also love. I think it shows a lot of the evil parts of Scarecrow, which this one does as well, which we're going to talk about in the review. But before we do, they actually made 1,500 of these, 1,500. 1,000 are the collector's or normal version, and then 500 are the exclusive version. This one is right here, which we'll look at the switch outs during design when we talk about the assembly of the piece. But the first category we're going to cover is concept. With concept, you look at, is it accurate to the source material? And just look at this. This is badass. This is really cool. Let's take a look from bottom to top. Starting at the bottom, obviously they are in a graveyard. They're in a graveyard, and there's a couple things going on. You see a lot of the vegetation and rocks, and you see Jason Todd, formerly Robin, rising from the grave. And here's the thing, because it's Scarecrow, we don't know if this is really happening or if this is an illusion. Maybe he's facing off against Batman. If he's doing the illusion for nobody, then it's pretty stupid, but you could pair him against a Batman piece. Maybe he's just practicing. And around Jason Todd, you see all this weird purple smoke, which I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I think it adds great color to the statue, and it really shows that, hey, this is an illusion. Maybe it makes it look scary. Maybe it was too boring without. You see him standing on a toppled over Jason Todd tombstone. And normally with statues, we say they're either in a museum pose, kind of like standing for a picture, or a dynamic pose. While this is close to both, I would say this is a dynamic pose. He's leaning, he has his sickle back, maybe he's ready to strike. So you really would want to pair this against someone. I think he'd look excellent. I don't actually have any 1/4 scale Batmans other than the Samurai. I have 2 on order, so I don't have anything. Now he's just going to pose as a museum for me. But it is true Scarecrow. He is tattered up, he's in rags, his clothes are sewn together, extremely skinny, very, very scary. A lot of horror monster types, you really get this elongated, scary effect, and they pulled that off fabulously. This is fully sculpted, there's no fabric or cloth on this, and he's just in a very evil, badass pose. And this is why I bought it. When I saw this, it just looked fabulous, and Sideshow's been doing a really, really good job with their paint and sculpt and quality lately. So I figured they're not going to miss on this. And this one really was less than a year till it came out. So huge props to them. They first revealed it in October, November 2019, and it's in collectors' hands in August 2018, which is pretty quick turnaround time, especially with everything that's been going on in the world. But I love the concept. I think it captures Scarecrow. They added him using his power, or what he does. They made him look evil as hell. This makes Scarecrow look like an evil, scary villain, and I think they did a fantastic job. The purple smoke, I'm still unsure of. I think I like it, but I'm not sure. And for that reason, I give this a 4 out of 5 on the concept. And as a reminder, anything 3 and above is a good score. You know, it's almost a diorama. A diorama is typically 2 or more characters, and this is kind of 1.5. So now we're going to jump into design. We're going to do the traditional video assembly. We're going to talk about some of the things going on here. So let's see how we went together. Had your typical Sideshow outer box, and what's funny, it was heavier and definitely bigger than I thought it'd be.
That's what she said.
Pretty cool looking art box, both on the front and then both sides had a decent drawing of the Scarecrow. Here's a picture of the one layer of all the different pieces, more pieces than I thought it would be. So as you saw, pretty easy assembly. Sideshow traditionally does an assembly video. I never watch those because I kind of like to do it fresh and see if I can break something. Speaking of which, I did have a tiny breakage. It's crazy. Look at this right here, this zoomed in picture. Part of the base is broken off. It's just a little tip of the moss, and because it's fully sculpted on there, and I don't know how this happened. It was packaged very well, but I did send it to Sideshow. I don't even know what the response will be. It does seem like an easy fix. Also, one other thing I'm not digging is there are some big seam lines on the smoke. Check this out right here. Obviously, I understand why they had to do this. They had to engineer the cut so it would ship better. It probably would have broken if it was together. And the nice thing, it is on the bottom, and I'm actually displaying this really low, so you'll actually never see that. So definitely nothing I can't live without. Now, because this is the exclusive version, there are 2 portraits. So every version, 1,500 of them, came with this portrait right here, which was my favorite portrait. So I don't think this is an exclusive or bust. You don't have to get the exclusive, which both of them are waitlisted on Sideshow. But here's the exclusive portrait, which I did not think I would like, and I think I like it better. It is pretty damn good, although the collector's version is very good as well. And when we get to paint and sculpt, there's a lot of differences between them, which I really like that. Not only did they did portrait switch outs, but they're considerably different. It's not just the smile or the expression, and we'll dive deep into that later. So really, a lot of great things going on here. I think the fact that the footprint doesn't take up too much room for a 1/4 scale piece. You guys know some of my 1/4 scale pieces take up 3 times this amount. So he fits well with a lot of Batman and Batman villains in Sideshow's line or other people's lines as well. So I think the design is also a 4 out of 5 on this piece. Really impressed. I like a lot of the stuff they did. It's very elaborate. It's not an easy design, so that counts towards a higher score as well. Paint and sculpt was also not disappointing on this piece. They did a very good job, and like I said, lately I'm just really impressed with a lot of the pieces coming out from Sideshow. Let's start at the base here, looking at the rock. The rock is fantastic. I'm a big critic of rock and stone. they did great, not only with the shading of the paint, there's some grays and whites and blacks and then a little bit of green for that moss effect, but the texture looks fantastic. And then up towards the top, you see a little bit more of that moss going on. I think it adds a little bit of variance to the statue, which is nice. The purple smoke, again, I think it's too dark, it's too billowy. It's not supposed to be smoke, it's supposed to be an illusion or a magical part of Jason Todd rising from the grave, so I can get past that. But it's not my favorite part of the statue. I think it could have been better if it was a different color or if it was more semi-transparent, and I understand it may be supposed to be the Scarecrow's toxins, but it's just not for me. Jason Todd Robin, they did a very good job on him. Not amazing. I think there's some great... there's not really a lot of texture in the suit, which is fine by me, but they did the different colors, and it's very dirtied and tattered. His portrait looks good, too. Not great. Again, very zombie-like. I think they could have made him more scary. He doesn't look that scary to me, and maybe it's because it's Robin, and Robin's not that scary in general. But the sculpt and paint on it are very good. It's very cartoonish. Maybe why I don't like it is because it doesn't flow with a lot of what we're going to see moving up. And here's the gravestone. A lot of the same colors we saw on the rocks, and then you see some green moss dripping down the sides, almost like somebody who ate something green peat on it. But it looks great. There's some great texture. I love the angels on it. It's a great looking tombstone. Check out Scarecrow's shoes. I love what they've done with Scarecrow. All of his appendages, his hands, his arms, his legs, his feet are all very elongated. Makes him more like a real scarecrow, more than a person, and I like that. So he has these weird-ass scarecrow-type shoes. He must wear shoe size 19. With these cool straps on it, totally sculpted. There's some cool shading and coloring on here, a tiny bit of texture, really well done. You can see his ankles right above it as well. And he's not your typical normal color. You see a little bit of a skin on his arm and his legs as you move up here. With his legs, I love what they did. Again, very elongated. The pants are stretched out through them. There's some patches with some stitching on it. And most of it's this green-brown color that looks really good. I think it works well with Scarecrow and flows really well. And he just looks decrepit and scary and old, and they did a fantastic job. Some of his clothes are torn, and they're kind of flowing in the wind or falling from his body. I think they did a good job choosing where they're going to put some of the tears and rips and stitching. His belt is made out of rope. It looks like a real belt. Really good job on the sculpt, and it's a little bit of variance in the color than we saw in the pants, which I like that. It's kind of these same tones of brown and gray and green throughout, but they mix it up so it doesn't look so monotone. His shirt is a fantastic job. There's two parts to it. One is really texturized with that honeycomb pattern, and then the other is a little bit less texturized and kind of this smooth, elongated area, like he stitched two shirts together. You can see his bony anatomy underneath it as well. Fantastic job on the sculpt. This is a different color brown than we see anywhere else. It looks really good. His shirt's one of my favorite parts. You see the folds and creases in it as well, and more stitching on the back. Check out his arms. His left arm is kind of this really elongated fingers. Like I said, you kind of see that throughout the whole thing. These gloves look great. They look like Scarecrow gloves. They're tied together with some rope. It looks fantastic. They really knocked this piece out of the park. It's no surprise that they're selling out, and the S was only $1,500, which we'll talk about value in a second. The other arm is more torn up. You see more of his skin, and he has that really weird flesh tone, very bony, not a lot of muscle, but he's really become this character. Whether it was a actual human transformation or kind of a magical, metaphysical transformation. His sickle looks great. It's very lightweight, so it's PVC or something of that nature, but it doesn't look it. I think the rust tones they put on it look fantastic. It's a great weapon for Scarecrow. Really impressed by it. Let's look at the collector's portrait, which I said is still amazing, and I thought this was going to be my favorite. First, I want to look at the hat. So a few differences you're going to see compared to the other one is first, the tip is actually torn off on this one, where the other one's fully completed. It's going in a little bit different direction. It's going to Scarecrow's right, where the other one will be going to the left. Then the buckle around the top of it is this gray-greenish color, very similar to his pants. It's going to be black on the other one. Now, his portrait right here is great. The straw hair coming out of the sides, I love that. There's no hair on the other one. Maybe I do like this one better. They're both fantastic. Definitely ones I'm not going to put back in the box because I will be switching them out. Then his mask, completely stitched together. You got some awesome texture that looks like a hay bag. Very, very cool. And not only is there stitching holding it together, but there's this weird stitching over his mouth. And I think it really takes it to that next level. I think it'd look weird if you just saw his teeth, but his teeth are done fantastic as well. Really cool detail, very dirty, very grimy. His eyes, I think, are a little bit of a miss. They look like a decal, so I like the fact they added the orange to give kind of that Halloween effect, the orange and white, but I'm not a huge fan of the paint job on his eyes. Around his eyes, it's kind of okay for me. You see that true skin color that you saw a little bit near his mouth. Now, his exclusive portrait has some cool things going on. First of all, you can kind of see the hood coming down his neck, so he is wearing this mask where you didn't see that, the kind of the hay mask. And then he has a noose around his neck to hold it on. That's a fantastic addition, and the rope looks real. So while it's more of a concept thing, they did a great job with the paint and sculpt. And then this jack-o'-lantern pumpkin look of his face is awesome. Again, more ties into Halloween. His jaw is really elongated. Very, very creepy. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Pumpkinhead, one of my favorite horror characters. And again, great job with the texture. To me, this is more of a mystical kind of portrait. Compared to the other one, it's kind of just a mad, crazy man that's kind of sewn it together. Because this doesn't look like a mask when you get to the top. It looks like this is his actual portrait. Now let's look at his hat. Again, a few differences. The brim is raised up. Here is the black strap that I told you about where it's brown on the other one. And then the other difference, not only does the tip of the hat go all the way back, but this hat is stitched up where the previous one wasn't. So I love how many differences there are between the two portraits. I mean, they really went all out, and they're both well done. So very impressed with the paint and sculpt on this piece. Let's give the paint a rating first. I think because there were some things I didn't like on the base, particularly with the smoke and with Jason Todd, I think the paint on this is a 3 out of 5. And part of that is there wasn't a lot of different colors on the top. However, I think the sculpt is amazing. I think the sculpt is really well done, especially when you look at the portraits and a lot of the seam work and stuff like that they did. I think the sculpt's a 5 out of 5. And as I'm giving the sculpt this score of an X, I almost feel like the paint should have been a little bit higher. But anytime I have something that's kind of between a 3 or a 4, I always put it at the lower one. But paint is really well done. Don't get me wrong. 3 is still a very good score for that. So let's talk about value. Retailed for $600. I think the collector's version was $20 more. They made 1,500 of these, which is a relatively low ES. DC pieces generally don't hold their value as much as Marvel. It's just the realism of the game. There's a lot of people that have good reasons. They speculate why. Not many Scarecrow statues out there. Definitely not many 1/4 Scarecrow statues. This one they knocked out of the park. They got so many things done really well. I have no doubt this will hold its value. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of competitors coming out either. For that reason, I give this 4 out of 5 on value. You know, a few years ago, $600 for a 1/4 secondary character would have been shocking. But I think this is a decent value on this, a very good value actually, almost a rail. Now our final score is, does this statue have the X factor? It's not a cumulative score, it is this a wow statue? When you walk by it, is it done really well? When you dive in, is it even better? I think the answer is yes on both of those. However, the fact that this is a secondary character, just honestly, it takes it down a little bit more. If I was going to get rid of a lot of Batman statues, I would get rid of Scarecrow before a Batman for the reason that he's not the star of the show. But I still give this statue a rail. It's not a grail, but it's a statue people will really want. It's a 4 out of 5. Really well done by Sideshow's team. I give them a lot of crap sometimes, but they make great pieces, and I think this is just another example. They keep knocking it out of the park, so well done to them. Let me know, are you a Batman statue collector? Not the Batman statue collector, not Chris, but a Batman statue collector. And if so, do you need this for your collection? Would you get this for your collection? Comment that below, and the reason why I tell you that is commenting will help you win that statue. To win one of these Mortal Kombat statues, all you have to do is comment on a video. At 15,000 subscribers, I'm going to pick a random video and pick a random comment. That person will win the prize. They can choose between these two pieces. Also, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Thanks for hanging with me, guys. I'm actually using a different mic because I had some technical problems, but tomorrow everything will be normal, and tomorrow is an awesome review. So make sure you've subscribed by hitting that Mr. X logo and that bell notification. Otherwise, check out some of these other pieces from Sideshow Collectibles. Until I can see you tomorrow. Take care.